Good evening, everyone. My name is Sam Nasr, and this is the Cleveland C# user group. A little bit about the group. We meet every month. The meetings are free of charge and open to the public, and we cover a variety of topics related to .NET. You can find the meeting information posted at meetup.com at the link listed at the bottom of the slide. As always, I'd like to thank our sponsors, PostSharp and DevExpress, for sponsoring the post-meeting prizes, which will be given away using the eval form. We'd also like to thank the .NET Foundation for sponsoring the Meetup website. And last but not least, NIS Technologies for sponsoring the virtual meeting space. Some general overhead information. First and foremost, please keep in mind participation is always encouraged. And like I always say, the only stupid question is the one not being asked. However, when not speaking, kindly ask you to mute your microphones just to avoid any background noise. And we want to keep it casual but organized. So feel free to jump in with any questions or comments at any point. But at the same time, we want to give our presenter enough time to go through the demos and the slides. Lastly, the presentation is being recorded and will be posted on YouTube. So typically, I am the host, but tonight I am the host and the presenter. And I'll be presenting on Build Your Own Copilot. And so with that, let's go ahead and dive right into it. So a little bit about me. I've been a software developer since 1995. You can find me on Twitter or X at Sam Nasr. And I've been a senior software engineer as well as instructor for NIS Technologies. I've been certified with a few certifications from Microsoft. And I also run the Cleveland C# user group, i.e. this group, as well as the Azure Cleveland user group, which meets every second week of the month. I've also authored several articles as well as training videos, and I've been a 6-time Microsoft MVP. So let's skip this slide because we've already covered what the C# user group is all about. And let's dive into tonight's topic. So what is Copilot? Copilot is Microsoft's generative AI service. It allows you the ability to create a conversational chat interface, and it is built on the OpenAI GPT-4 LLM or large language model. It was initially launched in February of 2023. And it utilizes the freemium model, meaning there's a free version of it, but there's also a premium version that's available with additional features. So Copilot comes in a variety of different flavors. We were first introduced to it in GitHub Copilot in June of 2021. And what that is basically the extension that allows you to interact with Copilot inside of Visual Studio. And as you can see over on the left-hand side, you can have a comment and be able to ask it to enter in a specific segment of code, or you have a pane over on the right where you can ask it to explain a specific segment of code. More specifically, this is really how it worked, where basically you utilize the comment slashes and then specify that you want to generate a function that retrieves database items by priority and immediately generate some stub code for you to start editing. So it was a very useful tool. Then it was integrated into Bing, as well as it was also made as a standalone chat application, meaning just like Google and Bing, where you can enter in search terms, now you can actually have a conversation as far as what it is that you're searching for. So instead of searching for let's say a 2021 Cadillac, now I can say, find me Cadillacs within the area. Is a Cadillac a good vehicle to buy? So now you're carrying on a conversation using natural language, and it's a chatbot, so it's a give and take with questions and answers. So that was Copilot in its basic form. And then afterwards, Microsoft had essentially integrated it in a variety of different applications. So not only is it incorporated in Bing and in Visual Studio, but now we see it also integrated in Office 365, as well as operating systems. And now we have the option to actually customize our own Copilot. And so the question then arises, why would I want to customize Copilot if there's already many different variations out there? Well, first of all, you'd want it to have it tailored to your own custom data for your own organization. If I am a distributor of HVAC equipment or heating and ventilation equipment, and a blower motor is specific to that type of industry, you may not easily find it on Amazon or by Googling it, but I can create a Copilot on my website where now customers can come and look up these parts and have a chat conversation with a search engine that's specific to my website and to my data. So it provides me deeper control over the user experience, where now the user doesn't have to sift through a variety of information, but they can rather have a conversation, question and answer, give and take dialogue with a chatbot on my site with my own specific data. So it allows you to focus the responses on the custom instructions of what the user is asking. And in addition to that, we can have plugins for additional skills with actions, meaning I can augment the results that are returned back to the user. So what are the tools that are used for developing Copilot? I can use github.com, where I can set up the settings for my GitHub Copilot. I can also use Visual Studio Code using the Teams AI library for building a chatbot in Office 365. In addition, there's a Copilot Studio, which is a web-based tool where I can create Copilot there. But then the new kid on the block as of last month is Azure AI Studio that was announced in Build. So what is Azure AI Studio? It is a unified platform that allows you one-stop shopping for developing, testing, and deploying generative AI apps. And essentially what you're doing is you're creating an API endpoint that then you're going to be able to utilize in other applications. But it's basically your studio through a web browser that allows you to customize that specific API for your own tailored data. So it's web-based, as I mentioned, and it uses pre-built and customizable models. As of now, there is approximately 1,600 models that are available on there. Each offers different features and different pricing models, but some of them are customizable. In addition, it allows you to use your own custom data, and it provides for a custom experience. So now that I'm utilizing my own customer data, now I can have my own custom experience provided to my user base. Using Azure AI Studio is free of charge. However, how you deploy the model and the API afterwards will indicate how many resources you're using, and hence will affect the pricing overall. So some of these resources that I'm referring to are things like AI search or content safety or document intelligence. All these services that are offered and accessible could incur some cost. And again, how much cost, it would depend on your usage. So with regards to the AI Studio models, meaning the models within Azure AI Studio, like I said, we have over 1,600 models, and they come from 14 different collections. As we see over on the right-hand side, you have collections offered by Azure AI, OpenAI, Microsoft, Meta, and a variety of different vendors. These models offer 26 different inference tasks, meaning whether they can do things like text to image, text generation, forecasting, embeddings, a variety of different inference tasks that are available. In addition, you have 11 fine-tuning tasks that you can filter on. And then within all those models, there's also 21 different license types that you can filter on to see which one is more adequate for your use. And with regards to deployments, it boils down to two different types. There's the serverless API, meaning it's going to be in the cloud. And then there's the managed compute, where you would have more control over the hosting of that specific model. So in a nutshell, over 1,600 models, variety of different collections, tasks that are available, and license and deployment types. Let me just pause here for a moment and see if there's any questions in chat. And like I said, always feel free to ask any questions or come off of mute. And so far, no questions, so we'll continue on. So in order to get started, there are some prerequisites that need to be put into place. First and foremost, since I'm going to be utilizing an Azure service, I would need an Azure subscription. In addition, I would need access to OpenAI, and that would require an application that I would have to submit. Typically, this application accessible from that URL will take anywhere between a couple hours to maybe a day or so to get approval and returned response. Once I have those two steps in place, I would then need to go into Azure AI Studio and be able to set up a hub and a project and then deploy my model. And we'll walk through all that in just a little bit. And there is what's called the AI Studio Playground Quick Start. This is a tutorial that helps you to get all the basics in place before you can start customizing your own Copilot. Then, if I'm going to be utilizing my own custom data, I would need to utilize the Azure AI Search Service. So I would need to set up a connection for that. And then, of course, once that's set up, then I would need to bring in my own sample or customer data for importing. So, as always, the best way to do things or to explain things is by demonstration. So we're going to go through a demo that will involve the following steps, which is to create a hub and a project. We're going to connect to Azure AI or an OpenAI service. Then we're going to create a deployment, which will involve choosing a specific model. We'll then open it in the playground, which is essentially a sandbox that allows us to test it and customize it how we want it. We'll then add our own data and then add a connection to the resource group, which we have set up in Azure, and then deploy it using either a web or call the web API. So 7 easy steps. Hope you have those memorized, but if not, we'll walk through it. And so since it's a web tool, the first thing that we need to do is access Azure AI Studio, and we do that by going to aiazure.com. And right from the get-go, I want to point out a little gotcha. So as soon as I load the page, you see that I have a demo project that's already loaded. So this project belongs to a hub. So the hub is the parent container, and then within it, I can have many projects. So here it shows that this project is an orphan, but in reality, it's part of the hub. The gotcha that I wanted to point out is once I refresh the page, you'll see that the hub will automatically populate again, only on the second reload. So that's a small gotcha that I wanted to point out. So as that's loading, let me go over into my Azure portal. So there is my Azure portal. I'll go into my resource group that I've assigned. So this is going to be the resource group that houses all the different features for my Copilot. And if I go back to Azure AI Studio, that page should have loaded. And it's still continuing to load, no problem. So while it's doing that, another thing I wanted to point out is because this process of setting up the hub and the project is rather intensive as far as time, I expedited the process by doing some screen captions, which I wanted to share with you. But before I do that, let me point out that after I reload the page, we should now be able to see the name of the project as well as the hub. So there you see the project, Demo Project 1, and now Demo Hub is the name of the hub that project belongs under, and it is now populated. So going back to my screen captions, what I would do here is I would start a new project. And immediately populates a wizard, or what you see is what you get type of interface, and it's a form asking me for different settings. So what do I want to name my project? What hub do I want to put it into? Or if I want to create a new hub. So I'm not going to go through the entire thing from scratch, mainly because it's a time-intensive process. Instead, what I had done is I had captured a variety of screen captions, And let me go ahead and magnify that a bit. So the starting form is it's asking me for project name and hub. Once I specify that, then it's going to ask for the basics that every Azure resource asks for, i.e. the subscription, what resource group does it belong to, the location of where I want these resources to run. So there you see it's populated in the first few fields. Then one of the things that's critical is I need to connect to an Azure AI service. This will allow me to be able to integrate with a model, as well as be able to incorporate my data. And so I specify a Azure AI service, as you see in the second to last field. Then once everything is specified, I would go ahead and click Create Project. And then the fun part is where I sit and watch all these processes and items get created. So to save everyone's time, basically this is what it would look like. And then once everything is said and done, then it will take me back to the demo project in Azure AI Studio. Once that's done, what's actually happening on the back end, if we go into the Azure portal, is that it's creating a variety of resources for housing the data, the AI search service for indexing the data, and a variety of other things that are contained within that resource group that I have specified. And in my situation, I called it RG Sam Nasr _AI. So that's the name of the resource group that houses everything relating to that specific project. Okay, so as we see over on the left-hand side, I have a variety of different options to choose from. In the middle is the project playground, and if I click on chat, that will take me to where I can test my chatbot, specify the model that I wanted to deploy. Oh, let me go back and specify that step. My apologies. So again, this is going back to my screen captions. So I had left off where I had created all the resources within the portal, and I had done that through the AI Studio. But then the next step is to click on deployments. Okay. This is where I would review and finish and create all the resources. This is after the project has been made. And now the next step is to actually go into the hub and create a deployment. And by doing a deployment is, what that means is I am selecting a model and I'm selecting how it's going to be deployed. So there's the deployment type set as standard. I'm specifying the Azure OpenAI resource that's tied to my Azure subscription. And I specified the model that I want to deploy, which is a GPT-35 Turbo, or 3.5, I should say. Once that's been selected, then it provides me with an API key and an endpoint. And obviously, API key is the keys to the kingdom. So I have that hidden, but then it also provides me with an endpoint that I can utilize within my code. Now I can go into my chat playground, and I see I have the deployment type already configured. I have my system message, which is basically prefaces every prompt that I enter in that goes into that model. So now it is, the system message says you are an AI assistant that helps people find information. So I can specify things or request things like what is the weather in Cleveland today? So this is a general model. I'm asking it a general question. So far, I haven't trained on any customer data. And the system message is it's going to be an AI assistant that helps me find information. So it's very straightforward. I enter it in, it comes back, and it says I cannot provide real-time information as I'm an AI language model. You might want to go to Cleveland weather. Fair enough. Let's say that I want to ask how many U.S. car companies are there? So it comes back with a nice, very straightforward answer. Now I'm going to modify my system message and say, you are a funny AI assistant. It helps people find information, and you always reply with humor. Notice once I started modifying the system message, now I have the apply changes button that automatically appears. So I'm going to go ahead and select apply changes, and then that's going to modify everything that's going to be sent to the model. So now when I ask it the same question, and you see now I'm getting a little bit of a comical attitude. Oh, I see you're really revving up for some car knowledge. Well, as of now, there are several major car companies, and then in the end it tells me buckle up and enjoy the ride. Okay, so I was able to modify the attitude, quote unquote, of the chatbot to make it a little bit more real life like. Likewise, I can always modify things to go in the opposite end, where I can say you're going to be a root assistant, and I'll remove the humor part, apply the changes, and now I'll continue to ask the same question. And now I'm getting a little bit of an attitude. Seriously, are you not paying attention? I just told you blah, blah, blah. Okay. Now, what I'm demonstrating here is it's a basic model that I just pulled off the shelf, quote unquote, right from the Azure AI Studio. I modified the message that's going into it, meaning I modified how it's going to behave. And as we saw, 3 different behaviors: straightforward, comical, and now relatively rude behavior in response. So I'm giving it more of a persona. But now the bigger question is, how can I incorporate my own data into it? So for starters, let's take a look at some sample data that I'll be importing. And this is a markdown file that I have downloaded. It's an open source markdown file, and it's about a fictitious company that sells trail walker boots. And give me 1 second while I'm opening up the file. But if I want to bring in my own data, then I would go into the Add Your Data tab. And I had already imported that file in previously. So I'll select that. And while that's loading, I'll open up my markdown file and be able to show you what it contains. Okay, that file is still continuing to load. So that file contains information about the trail walker hiking boots for a fictitious outdoor sports company. So I'm going to add in the question, how much are the trail walker hiking shoes? And I'm going to search for it. And now it comes back and it says the price of the trail walker hiking shoes is 110. And because I am in my playground or my sandbox where I'm doing the testing, it also points me to the fact that there is one reference inside that file that shows the price. And so if I click on that link, then it opens up the right information was retrieved. Now, if I ask another more detailed question, such as, are the trail walker shoes stylish? And there we see that it extracted some text, put it into natural language, and then provided the answer back as far as answering my question. I can take it a step forward and ask, do the trail walker shoes prevent chafing? And you notice with each question, or each answer rather, that's provided, it provides me the reference point. So I can select that specific reference and click on it, and it will take me over into the pane on the right and show me where that's located. So what this markdown file looks like, I have it opened in Notepad just to avoid any of the formatting issues. And basically the file just contains some basic information regarding the product, the name and the price, some features, as well as some technical specs. And then in addition, there are some warranty information and warranty claim issues, as well as return policy, and then customer reviews listed at the bottom. So once I selected to import that file over in the playground by adding my own data, essentially the AI service on the back end that I had configured previously would index that data, read it, and then using the large language model, i.e. the GPT 3.5 that I specified in the deployment, it's able to extract that information from the data file that I submitted, and it's able to respond back. Okay. So I'm sure you're all thinking this would be better to integrate this in my own corporate website. Users can then go enter in this type of information or questions and be able to get some human readable, user-friendly dialogue back, as opposed to going to a Bing or a Google and having to sift through information themselves. As we know, anytime you look up something on the internet, you always have to take it with a grain of salt by sifting through the information, especially with customer reviews, right? Every product, no matter how good or how bad it is, has a lot of 5-star reviews and has a lot of 1-star reviews. It's just a matter of weighing and seeing what's really something that would be advantageous or disadvantageous to you. So to avoid all that, you can create a chatbot that actually addresses specific questions by reaching into the data files that you already have and providing it with that information. Okay, so if there's no questions, we can continue on. Oh, before I do that, let me launch the app because I know that's going to take a while. So let's do this. Let me launch that. We'll wait until that loads, and then we'll come back to that in just a minute. So back to our PowerPoint. So within Azure AI Studio, the first thing that I need to create is a hub, which is essentially a grouping of projects for sharing security settings, data connections, and other artifacts. And then once I have the hub created, then I can create the project, which is the TED for creating, testing, and deploying an API. And then more specifically, the hub, what that allows me to do is that it provides top-level Azure resources for AI Studio, meaning there's centralized governance and connectivity and resources within the hub that any project that I create inside that one hub will have access to all those resources and connections within it. So projects in a hub essentially inherit the same security and resource access in the hub. It enables developers to create projects and access the shared resources without having to reach out to an admin. And what that's essentially meaning is that once I have my resources and connections, i.e. database connections, set up in my hub, now I can access those through any of the projects that I create. Same thing with the OpenAI access. Once I have that established for a hub, then any project that I create in that hub will have that same access. So the hub is created in Azure AI Studio, and then there's obviously everything that's created within AI Studio. It's reflected in my portal by creating all the resources on the back end in the portal. So this can be done either by going through Azure AI Studio or by utilizing templates to create these resources on the back end. So some of the hub resources, to be more specific, that I mentioned earlier, security configuration, connections to a database, the quota or the compute allocations, those are also set up for a specific hub, as well as AI access, any policies that I would want to implement, those would be enforced within the hub scope as well, and then any other dependent Azure resources that would be included. So essentially what the overall architecture looks like is that I have the hub that contains all my necessary security and compute features, as well as connections. And as you see, I have a one-to-many relationship between the hub and the projects. So within one hub, I can have multiple projects, and then all those projects have access to the same connected resources, like the AI services model deployments over on the lower portion of the slide. So some additional things that I wanted to point out within the AI Studio. We'll take a look at some additional features. So looking at the playground, first of all, you see that at the very top under Get Started, I have a model catalog, and this shows me all the different models that are available, over 1,600, and then it also gives me the ability where I can filter on all those models to find out what's more suitable for me. So here we have 1,674 different models, and I can filter either through the top level menu, looking at specific collections that I want. So let's say I want to look only at Microsoft and Meta models, then it will just filter on those and display those. And then within those, let's say I want the inference task for text generation, and it will show me the models that are a fit for that. And then any specific licenses that I'm looking for, let's say I just want the ones with Apache 2.0. So no results found. Now I can search on a different license type, or I can just select all and license types that are available. Okay, my browser is a little slow, and I apologize for that. So another thing that would be helpful in picking out which model would be appropriate is looking at the benchmarks. And that's also available within the AI Studio. And the way they did it is they have all the models spec'd out, but then they also specified the benchmarks regarding specific data sets. So as we see over on the lower portion, we have all the models listed out. And then at the very bottom, you have approximately a dozen or so different data sets that were used. JSM 8K, human EWA, and a variety of different data sets. If I go over into my graph, I can see which ones were more accurate for a specific model. So for example, I can look at the Llama chat and see which of the data sets and how well they performed. So here, BullQ has a higher value than any of the other data sets, like MMLU STEM and GSM 8K. So here is a benchmark for all the different values. In addition, I can continue to scroll to see additional parameters regarding the models and how well they performed regarding different operations. In addition, once I go back into my project, then I have some additional capabilities. So if I go more specifically into the chat playground, we'll see that I have the ability to import and export files. So these different settings in the system AI, the system message, the adding my own data, all that can be specified as an export file in a JSON file. And you'll see that it's exporting all the different parameters as well as the system message into a chat setup.json file. Once I click export, then I'll be able to export that into a file and be able to download it. In addition, we said that Azure AI Studio is used for building the API. So that API is running in the back end, and I can access that by code. So if I click on the View Code button, it gives me my endpoint as well as my API key, which is hidden. And then it gives me a variety of different language types where I can get some basic code for accessing that. So here it is in C#. If Python is my language of choice, I can select that. And there it is in Python. And as you see, there's about a half different other languages that it's available in: Java, Go, JavaScript, whichever is more convenient for me. So I can essentially cut and paste and be able to utilize this code as a starting point. While we were doing that, the export file had downloaded. So if I open that up, that's going to be a JSON file that's going to contain all the system messages, the parameters that are specified here, and these all have to do with the accuracy and how well the model will respond to questions that are submitted. And so if I go over into my download folder where that file is located, we're doing that. In addition, I can take a look at my chat capabilities. So here it still has the file imported for the product info. Now I can say, how much are the trail walk boots? I think they're called trail hike. So the trail walker hiking shoes are 110. Now I can choose to show that response instead of text in a user-friendly manner like this. I can utilize it in my code and specify that I want to utilize a JSON format. So by clicking that button, it will then convert it into JSON, and we'll see the results in just a second. And there you see the role of the system, meaning what message that I have in the system message. And that was the general, you are an AI assistant that helps people find information. As a user, I had asked how much are the trail walk boots? And then I had asked the second question, how much are the trail hike boots? And then it came back with a response of the price of the hiking shoes is 110, and this was provided by the assistant. So all this is now converted into a JSON format. In addition, I can select chat capabilities where I can vary the language type that I want to interact with it. As you can tell, there's a variety of different languages available. I can also enable speech to text and text to speech, and then select the specific voice of what I want. So let's go with Elizabeth. And I would need to acknowledge that the spoken chat will incur additional usage to my subscription. Obviously, everything in Azure is dependent on the resources that you're using and how often. So chat, or speech is no different. So once I click save, now I can press the mic button and say, okay, we want to enable that, and say save. How much are the trail walker hiking shoes? That didn't register. Let's try it again. How much are the trail walker hiking shoes? Of course, when it's demo time, expect things to go wrong. All right, let's try it again. How much are the trail walker hiking shoes? Are you listening? Okay, so for some reason, the browser is getting hung up, but typically once I select or press the mic, then it's able to convert that speech into text, enter it into here. And then once I submit the question, then I'm able to get a verbal response back from
The requested information is not found in the retrieved data. Please try another query or topic.
So I'm not sure if the voice came across, but basically there was a verbal message saying the requested information is not found, similar to what appeared here in the JSON result set. The point is, I can press the mic, be able to submit a question verbally. Likewise, it can speak it back to me, and then I also have the option to mute the response coming back. I wanted to pause for a moment and see if there's any questions in chat. Okay, the presentation screen becomes very small and unclear. So there should be some buttons on the side for you as a user to be able to expand the screen on your end. Not sure if you're able to see that or not, Kevin. So some gotchas. When logging in, make sure that your directory is associated with your subscription. Otherwise, it'll seem like you're logged in, but everything that you've created is not available, and it can be a little bit frustrating. So always check to see the directory that you're working in is associated with your subscription. In addition, the subscription needs to be below your quota limit in order to be able to deploy a new model. Also, the user role must be either AI developer, contributor, or owner on the hub in order to be able to create new projects. And then, as we had seen, whenever we're making changes to the system message, don't forget to click Apply Changes in order for the system messages to take place. Also, whenever we're deploying the web app, a note of caution, as circled here in red, basically it's going to be about a 10-minute wait until the app is loaded and available for use. So it's essentially a lot of, once you deploy it, you sit and wait. And I have the option of either creating a new web app when I deploy it or updating an existing web application. So as a recap, we covered the advantages of creating our own chatbot, i.e. our own Copilot, where we can select the model, we can import our own data, we can specify how we want the AI assistant to act, meaning, as we had seen, it could be either straightforward as a helpful AI assistant, it could be comical, or it could be relatively rude. And of course, we're not going to be utilizing rude in the workplace on a professional site, but wanted to show you all the different features and the range of flexibility you have with that AI assistant. In addition, we looked at being able to export all the options that we have into a JSON file, being able to cut and paste stub code that we could use for the API that we created, as well as the endpoint. And we looked at the chat playground, which serves as a sandbox for that allows us to be able to test our Copilot. Some resources regarding the Azure AI Studio architecture. I'll provide the links over in my blog, as well as a link for a quick start on how to create a project and use it in the chat playground, and then how to deploy it. And last but not least, some frequently asked questions regarding AI Studio. So before I proceed, I wanted to pause and see if there's any questions in chat. Okay, it seems there's a couple comments revolving around the screen size, but again, that is something on the user end. Arthur, thank you for your comment. Appreciate it. Hope it was helpful for you. But before we adjourn, just wanted to have some other concluding slides. So if you found this interesting and you need to implement this in your workplace, or you're looking for this as a course, you can reach out to NIS Technologies, where this is offered as a course, as well as also a free lunch and learn. In addition, also some consulting services that are available to help you get started with your chatbot. Pardon me for just a moment. I need to copy some links and paste them into the chat window. And this will include a link for my blog, as well as the eval form and the recording. So if you look over into your chat window, you'll see that there's a variety of links relating to where the recording will be posted, and it will be on my YouTube channel. I strongly urge you to subscribe so you get upload notifications. Also, tech events, as well as frequently asked questions and other articles related to AI, Copilot, are going to be posted on my blog, and you can also subscribe to that to get updates. And last but not least, I would appreciate it if you take a moment, fill out the feedback eval form, and provide me with some constructive criticism. I'm open to any and all criticism. I would appreciate your feedback. Want to know how I can make this better for you, as well as for future attendees. Lastly, although this brings our presentation to an end, please keep in mind this is not the end of the dialogue. My email, snasr@nistechnologies.com. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions, or if you need help getting started with creating a Copilot for your place of business, I'd be happy to help you. Initial consultations are free of charge, and generally speaking, I love helping people. So feel free to reach out to me with any questions. In addition, you can find all my resources and my links through Linktree, and it's linktree/Sam Nasr. And if we're not connected on LinkedIn, I invite you to do so. So please join me on LinkedIn. And as always, thank you all for attending, and look forward to seeing you at future meetings as well. Good night, everyone.